Let me tell you something, you don't climb Everest by accident. You don't wake up one morning and just arrive at greatness. You earn it. You bleed for it. And sometimes the world doesn't see you coming until it's too late. That's what's happening right now. Alaska was the spark, the shock, a place frozen in silence until the roar came from the unlikeliest corner of the world. India didn't just step up, it erupted, not with noise, not with pride, but with power, with performance, with the kind of hunger that makes giants tremble. You know, I've seen greatness, I've felt it, I've chased it in iron, in Hollywood, in politics. But what I'm watching now is something different. This is not a country playing catch up. This is a country waking up after centuries of being underestimated, overlooked, talked over, and now it's speaking loud through athletes, through innovation, through vision that doesn't just look to the future, it builds it. Picture it, snow crunching beneath your boots in Alaska, cold air cutting into your lungs, and then there it is, the flag, the tricolor, flying against the wind, not waving politely, but declaring something. A storm doesn't ask permission. It arrives. It changes the map. This is India rewriting the rules. No longer the underdog, no longer the question mark. It is the exclamation point at the end of every sentence that used to start with, can they really do it? Oh, yes, they can. And they are. And let me tell you, this isn't just about a moment. This isn't just about medals or glory or standing on a podium. This is about a mindset, about believing when the world doubts you, about standing taller when they expect you to shrink. Because when the spotlight hits you in that frozen silence and the whole world is watching, you don't just represent a flag, you represent every child who was told they weren't strong enough, every dream that was laughed at, every goal that felt too far away. You show them, I am here, I belong, and I'm not stopping. That's the spirit I see in India today. Fierce, focused, unbreakable. They said you couldn't handle the pressure. You embraced it. They said the cold would freeze your spirit. You turned it into fire. They said, not yet. You said, and I am watching with pride, with awe. Because I know what it takes to silence the doubters. I know what it means to rise from nothing, to turn raw ambition into unstoppable momentum. You don't wait for history, you punch your way into it. And if Alaska was a shock to the world, then let it be the first of many. Because the ice has cracked, the silence has shattered, and the world is finally listening. Greatness is never accidental. It's earned through relentless effort, sacrifice, and vision, especially when the world least expects it. India's rise isn't just surprising, powerful, deliberate, and shaking global assumptions from the cold heights of Alaska to the global stage. The transformation is not just athletic or technological, it's a shift in mindset from doubt and silence to confidence and domination. India's emergence symbolizes the resilience of every individual who was ever underestimated or told they couldn't achieve greatness. This is not about a fleeting victory, it's about rewriting the rules, claiming space, and demanding recognition with undeniable force. The world is no longer ignoring India, it's watching, listening, and feeling the impact of a nation that has decided it will no longer wait to be seen. Greatness is never a coincidence, it doesn't arrive wrapped in luck or handed out like a gift. It's built in the shadows, where no one's watching, where no one believes in you yet. It's forged in the early mornings, in the quiet sacrifices, in the decision to keep pushing when everything in your body tells you to stop. You don't stumble into the summit of a mountain. You crawl, you climb, you fall, and then you get back up again and again until your feet touch the top. And when they do, the world calls it a miracle. But you know better, you know the pain behind the podium, the training sessions where your muscles burned and your lungs screamed, the nights where doubt whispered, you're not enough, and you answered back, watch me. That's the part they don't see. That's the part that makes you. In Alaska, when the cold bites into your skin and your breath turns to mist, nobody's asking where you're from. They're watching what you do. And India didn't just show up. It owned the moment. That didn't come from chance. That came from preparation, meeting belief, from a relentless desire to prove that greatness isn't limited by geography, stereotypes, or what the world has decided you're capable of. I've stood on stages, I've heard the applause, but I've also heard the silence, Those moments before anyone believes in you, when you're the only one clapping for yourself. And let me tell you, those moments matter more. That's when you decide what kind of person you're going to be. The one who waits to be chosen, or the one who chooses themselves. That's what India is doing now. Not waiting, not asking, becoming. This kind of greatness doesn't shock the world because it happens overnight. It shocks the world because it was happening in the dark for years, unnoticed, uncelebrated, unstoppable. And when it finally rises, it doesn't ask for attention, it commands it. And maybe that's the secret. You don't chase greatness for the world to see it. You chase it because you see it, even when no one else does. When Alaska lit up with the fire of Indian triumph, it wasn't just a victory, it was a message, a shockwave, a quiet storm that erupted into a roar. No one saw it coming. That's the beauty of it. Because the world wasn't looking, they were too busy watching the usual names, the expected contenders. And then boom, India arrived, not as a guest, not as an underdog, as a force. And in that moment, something shifted. The snow didn't melt, but the silence did. That long, heavy silence where people ask, is India really ready for this? It cracked. Because India didn't come to ask, it came to answer, with movement, with medals, with minds sharpened and hearts set on fire. I've been in rooms where people judge you before you speak, where they smile politely but doubt you completely. That's what India has faced for decades. The polite applause, the raised eyebrows, the dismissive pats on the back. But that only makes the fire burn hotter. You take that doubt and you turn it into discipline. You take their silence and you let it build your storm. So when that flag rose in the freezing air, it wasn't just a national moment. It was personal for every athlete who trained in the dust while others trained in state of the art gyms. For every dreamer who stayed up at night with more hunger than hope. For every young Indian who watched the world stage and said, one day that'll be me. Now that day is here. India is not catching up. It's accelerating, not chasing the pack. It's moving past it. Because this isn't about catching the world off guard once. This is about setting the pace from now on. This is about making the extraordinary the new normal. And the shock, the real shock is not that India rose, it's that anyone ever thought it wouldn't. This is what happens when focus becomes fierce, when belief becomes non-negotiable, when a nation stops waiting for permission and starts taking up the space it's always deserved. This isn't just a new chapter for India, it's a new mindset, a breaking of old chains, old labels, old ceilings that were placed not by truth, but by perception. For too long, clichés, spiritual, yes, colorful, yes, capable, maybe, but dominant, unlikely, that was the narrative. That was the quiet limitation whispered into every arena, every boardroom, every international stage. But the ground is shifting, not because India asked for it, because India decided it. This transformation isn't built on arrogance, it's built on awareness. India is no longer looking outward for validation, looking inward for fire. The athletes, the innovators, the visionaries, they're not waiting to be recognized anymore. They're recognizing themselves. And that changes everything. Once your belief system changes, your reality follows. The world used to ask, can they compete? Now it's wondering, how far can they go? That's what a mindset does. It doesn't just change the game, it redefines what the game is. You can feel it in the way an Indian athlete steps onto foreign soil with steel in their spine, in the way a young girl in a small town trains like the world is already watching, in the way a scientist, a soldier, a student looks up not with hesitation but with purpose. It's not about proving others wrong anymore. It's about proving ourselves right. There was a time when Indian dreams came with disclaimers. Yes, but if only one day. That time is over. Now the dreams are bolder, louder, non-negotiable. And what fuels them isn't just talent, it's its identity, its clarity, it's the refusal to be defined by anyone else's limitations. And I know what that feels like. When I came to America, I had a strange name, a heavy accent, and a dream bigger than my muscles. People laughed. People doubted, but I didn't. I couldn't. Because when your mindset shifts, your whole life follows. You stop asking for a seat at the table. You build your own table, and then you invite the world to sit with you. That's the India I see now, not demanding attention, commanding it, not hoping for space, taking it. There's something deeply powerful about the moment you prove the world wrong, not with words, but with action. When India planted its flag in the frozen silence of Alaska, it wasn't just an athletic win. It was a voice rising up for every child who's ever been told they weren't strong enough, smart enough, fast enough. It was a victory for the overlooked, the underestimated, the ones who've been told to stay in their lane. I know that feeling, I've lived it. When I was just a boy in Austria dreaming of becoming Mr. Universe, they laughed. When I said I'd go to America and be a movie star with a thick accent, they said it was impossible. But I believed, not because I was certain, but because I refused to let the world define me. That's the fire I see now in India. Because when an Indian athlete stands on that podium, you're not just seeing strength, you're seeing every invisible weight they had to lift before they ever picked up a medal. You're seeing early mornings in dusty fields, sacrifices made in silence, parents choosing dreams over comfort, coaches pushing through broken systems, youngsters training not for applause but for pride. That's not just a personal triumph, that's a national revolution. For the kid who's running barefoot in a small village, chasing the horizon with nothing but fire in his chest. For the girl who hears, "Sports are not for you," and answers with another lap, another shot, another step forward. For every teenager sitting in a dark room, wondering if the world will ever notice them and deciding to shine anyway. These are not isolated stories, they're a pattern, a movement, a rising tide of people who are no longer waiting to be chosen. They're choosing themselves, and you can feel it. You can feel it in the way they walk, in the way they look straight ahead, in the way they carry not just the weight of a nation, but the hopes of millions who've never had the chance to speak. Because when you stand on that stage, it's never just about you. It's about everyone who got you there. Everyone who didn't give up. Everyone who still believes that no matter where you start, you can finish strong. This isn't a one-time surprise. This isn't lightning in a bottle. What happened in Alaska wasn't a lucky break. It was the beginning of a new rhythm, a new heartbeat. India didn't show up to create a moment. India showed up to create a standard. Because true power isn't proven in one victory, it's proven in consistency, in showing up again and again and again until the extraordinary becomes expected. Until every time you see that flag rise, you don't say, "Wow, that's surprising." You say, "Of course." That's who they are now. That's the difference between a breakthrough and a transformation. I've seen it before. In bodybuilding, one title gets you noticed, but it's the seventh one that builds a legacy. In Hollywood, one blockbuster opens the door, but doing it 10 times in a row, that cements your place. And now I see it in India. Not just aiming for the top, but staying there, earning it, owning it, refusing to let the world file it under own lucky run. It's a shift in energy. You feel it in the training grounds, in the locker rooms, in the quiet moments before the spotlight. There's a new kind of calm, an earned calm, not arrogance, not noise, just belief. Confidence built not from dreams alone, but from data, from discipline, from doing the work over and over, even when no one's watching. And the work shows. The bodies are stronger. The strategies are sharper. The mindset is relentless. These athletes aren't just performing at world-class levels, they're sustaining it. And that's what terrifies the old order, because the world can handle one upset. But when that upset becomes a pattern, that's when the system starts to shift. This is no longer about participation, it's about domination, not in a loud, boastful way, but in a way that says, we belong here, we're not visitors, we're not guests, we're part of the foundation now. And when a nation decides that greatness is not a peak but a baseline, everything changes. Because from that moment on, the goal is no longer to surprise the world, the goal is to lead it. There's a moment right after the silence, right before the applause, where the world finally looks up and says, "Who are they?" And for India, that moment is now. The world is watching, not politely, not skeptically, but with wide eyes and held breath, because what was once background noise is now the main event. It didn't happen overnight. This kind of presence doesn't arrive in a flash, carved out over years, decades, generations, brick by brick, win by win, voice by voice, until one day the world can no longer ignore what's always been their talent, hunger, heart. Before, India had to fight for attention. Now it's impossible to look away. You feel it at every major competition. in every arena, in every stadium. There's this ripple of anticipation when an Indian name is called, because people know something could happen, something big, something unforgettable. That kind of power only comes when you've earned the right to be feared, not by chance, but by performance, not by saying you belong, but by proving it again and again. And the world is adjusting, it's recalibrating its expectations, it's rewriting its predictions, no longer asking, can they do it? But how far can they go? And that shift, that beautiful shift, comes from a place deeper than medals, comes from a nation that stopped waiting to be seen and started acting like it was never invisible to begin with. This is more than sports. It's cultural. It's generational. It's the kid in a village